Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and the co-host this week comes straight out of Lazy Gaming Guys, who stream every single week on YouTube. It is Scott joining us this week. Welcome back, Scott.
Thanks, always glad to be here.
We've got comic, Marvel, and anime news this week, which will be big for you since you've been following that. But to anyone, if it is your very first episode, the way we format the show is first we go through a block of news, which is a majority of the show, and then we head into the Brokehead block, which is the more personal side of the podcast, what Scott and I have been doing, playing, or reading this week. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 486. We've got a chunk of comic book news this week as, according to Bloomberg, Dark Horse Comics, who are the publishers of Hellboy, Sin City, they have hired an advisor and are looking to, quote, weigh options that could include a sale, end quote. So given the success of Umbrella Academy on Netflix and on comics, also the return of the Star Wars stories to Dark Horse, Netflix and Disney are seen as the more plausible buyers. A little history on Dark Horse. It was founded in 1986 by Mike Richardson, and it has grown into becoming one of the biggest publishers of licensed comics. They've taken on brands like Stranger Things, Aliens, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Predator, and many more. What do you think about this news, Scott?
I think it's interesting. I do agree that Disney or Netflix would probably be the biggest competitors as far as going in to buy this. It's just a matter of who has the bigger wallet out of the two. It'll also be interesting to see what happens when they're purchased up to something like Hellboy, or, that's where it's like, yeah, that's not really necessarily a Disney-friendly property, and Netflix may be the more hands-off. I don't know on that one, because they also have their own things. So it's really just a matter of, okay, what changes are we going to see to either of these, or to the publishing of different comics, if either one gets it?
I think that is the bigger question here, because Netflix is not in the business of printing comic books. They have their logo on Mark Millar's books. They'll have it on the back, soon coming to Netflix. All of his properties, every comic that Mark Millar makes, it says on the back, but they're still published by people like Image or Dark Horse Comics. And then Disney on that end, if they were to buy up Dark Horse, then you could see either another imprint of Marvel, like Marvel Max, where you could reprint Sin City, or things that are more adult. As far as Hellboy, I think it's very plausible to put him into the Marvel Universe. I don't think that one's as big of a deal. But I think those are really the two only options. And if Netflix were to buy Dark Horse, they'd either stop the publishing, or I think they would mainly let it keep printing, because I don't think Netflix would be buying Dark Horse for the comics. I think they'd be buying it for the properties, so that they can then make a Hellboy series on Netflix, or Sin City, or all of the different things that Dark Horse already owns that they can then adapt into a cartoon or a live action show. And we know Netflix, the streaming wars, they're not shy about spending money.
No, that is true. Yeah, they're very much willing to spend the money, and then it just comes down to how much does Disney really care about a lot of those properties, and are they willing to spend as much, if that makes sense? Because really, I don't think Disney cares too much about something like Hellboy. They're more after some of the printing side, I would guess, to go along with and kind of enhance their Marvel comics. And I wouldn't be surprised if they purchase Dark Horse, that they just merge it with Marvel at some point and just be like, yeah, this is all one publishing company now, and this is how we're doing it.
However this ends up going down, I do want Dark Horse to still remain its own imprint, even if Marvel gets it and lets them kind of operate on their own, although I think that's the least likely of the two buyers, because Dark Horse is a good home for, as it says here, publishers, licensed publishing comic books. IDW, of course, can take on a lot of that, same with Boom Studios, but when you have more publishers out there, to me, that's a good thing. It's good for consumers. It's good for readers. We don't know how much IDW or Boom can take on as far as all of these different properties that they have. So to have another one like Dark Horse, who does a great job and has done a good job in the past with all of these things, especially Star Wars, then it creates another home for those. And I really don't want to see them go away, whoever ends up buying them. It won't be DC Comics. I've seen a couple comments there. They're in the middle of a merger with Discovery that's going to happen in a couple of months. And that's not even, I don't think they're even in the cards right now. So whoever ends up buying them, I hope they just continue Dark Horse Comics. If it's Netflix, keep it. That's a small cost of operations to me, is just letting the comics print themselves, because they don't do a shit ton of them. It's not a huge imprint, and they make most of their money, I think, from licensing these books.
Yeah, I'll agree that it's nice to have the competition in there, as far as breeds more independent publishers and stuff like that to take on some of this stuff. So I would also like to see Dark Horse continue as its own thing, but I just don't know what's in the cards. But yeah, I hope that they will continue, no matter which of the two buys them, or if some random third party comes in and swoops in and gets the deal.
IDW gets them.
That they continue being, Dark Horse, the Dark Horse that we know and love, and that they can still just keep doing their own thing.
Imagine a Sonic the Hedgehog Sin City crossover, some crazy shit like that.
It would be the weirdest thing, but I would purchase every cover.
Of course. On the more somber side of comics, this is a huge blow to the industry, but it needs to be discussed. It needs to be discussed here on the podcast as well, since we're both comic collectors, and Paul Kelly, who's been on, and a bunch of the people on here, like Bobby, is an avid comic collector as well. And legendary comic creator George Perez, who's worked on Wonder Woman, the New Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Infinity Gauntlet, Superman, posted that he has stage 3 pancreatic cancer. This is just a portion of the public letter that he put up on his Facebook page, and I think it highlights the decision that he made as far as this disease. He said, quote, "It is surgically inoperable, and my estimated life expectancy is between 6 months to a year. I have been given the option of chemotherapy and or radiation therapy, but after weighing all the variables and assessing just how much of my remaining days would be eaten up by doctor visits, treatments, hospital stays, and dealing with the often stressful and frustrating bureaucracy of the medical system, I've opted to just let nature take its course, and I will enjoy whatever time I have left as fully as possible with my beautiful wife of over 40 years, my family, friends, and my fans. I also hope that I will be able to make one last public appearance wherein I can be photographed with as many of my fans as possible, with the proviso that I get to hug each and every one of them. I just want to be able to say goodbye with smiles as well as tears." End quote. As many of you already know, throughout his illustrious career, he has created and co-created characters, juggernauts in the comic and media industry, such as Cyborg, Deathstroke, Nightwing, Raven, Starfire, and many more. I think it's a huge hit to the comic industry, and he already is one of the greats. He's not going to go down as one of the greats. I think we already know that he has contributed so much to this world of superheroes and supervillains.
It's sad to hear, in all honesty. I didn't read a lot of the older comics, but I've seen George Perez's work. You stay in the comic book scene long enough and you're going to see his work.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I'm happy that he's trying to do at least one last mass signing as well, to try and get anyone who wants my autograph, boom, let's get it. So I'll probably, depending on how he does that, try and get a signature of his, just because, that is a legend. Your last chance to get a legendary comic artist signature.
He is Florida based too, so I'm hoping that maybe he does something locally. I forgot which shop he subs at, but it's not too far from us, and a lot of the locals here know of George because he's involved in some of his, I believe, daughters or granddaughters' plays, and he's involved in school functions. So he's also a part of the community where he lives at. So he's a name known here in Central Florida. If he doesn't in Florida, great. This is where he has a lot of his friends and family, and I think it would be something that I think would be worth trying to check out and see. One of the memories I do have, just to have, remember some of the good stuff here is I never. Oh, I did actually. I got my DC versus Marvel when I was a teenager. Completely forgot about this. The Superman holding the Captain America shield and the Thor hammer. It's a classic fucking cover. And I got that signed by George, as well as the one where all of the heroes, it's like a big piece. And this is something that he did extremely well. You read Infinite on Crisis on Infinite Earths, and you can see all the pages where he'll put in a shit ton of characters, which artists don't like to do. Like anytime you tell an artist, okay, this page has a crowd, and they hate it. Like they don't want to draw a ton of people. But he would do it. He would put in all of the different superheroes and villains fighting each other. He did it with DC versus Marvel, and I got those signed. But years later, we were at MegaCon. I think it was my siblings and I. And my sister is a huge Deathstroke fan. So she had been wanting, and she eventually did get the first appearance of Deathstroke signed by George and talked about how nice he was to her. And that's something you always heard with fans and with people, is that George is an incredibly kind creator. He's great with his fans. He recreated that Superman holding Supergirl's body comic book cover with a Supergirl cosplayer. And then someone did it on the opposite, where Superman holding George. So he was up to doing that, and he was like Supergirl. When I walked by his table and I didn't get a signature, but I was, checking his table out. He had drawn, at the time there was the Death of Deadpool thing going on in comics, and he drew a blank sketch cover, Deathstroke holding out a sword, and on the sword is Deadpool's severed head right on there, and he wrote the true death of Deadpool. And I'm like, man, the fan that commissioned that was a good fucking idea. As you know, Deadpool was loosely based on Deathstroke. They even share a very similar name, Wade Wilson and Slade Wilson. Even though Rob Liefeld says, no, it's not, I didn't base him on Deathstroke. It's like, bullshit, Rob. Like, you clearly did.
Liefeld, like, he's not the most trustworthy of guys.
No, not at all. Which of his creations would you say is your favorite?
Deathstroke would probably be my favorite out of the ones he's created. Like, I've always enjoyed that he can kind of be the anti-hero at times, but he's also just a mercenary. Like, if he's being the anti-hero, it's just because either someone paid him to, or his goals just happen to align with more the good than the bad. I also really care for his children. I think that's an interesting aspect. I've also really enjoyed Raven over the years. Like, that's been a fun character, seeing what everyone does with Raven. I also really enjoyed her her original design was really cool.
Yeah, those were awesome. I got to agree with you. Deathstroke is on this list. It's probably my favorite of his creations, though it's followed closely by Cyborg. The character has evolved so much since they've used him. Like, now he's a member of the Justice League, which is a pretty big deal. You don't see a lot of characters become a staple of like the main roster. When you think of Justice League now, I don't know. I think of Cyborg as being a member personally, and that's a recent thing. That's New 52. So to see his character evolve, and now he's a part of Zack Snyder's Justice League and possibly in 2 sequels. I mean, that's a pretty huge deal. I don't know, man. Like, if someone were to ask me, who do you think is his most popular character, I'd have trouble answering that one, because Deathstroke, Nightwing, there's so many age groups that people would identify with as far as all of his different characters. Raven, Starfire, with a bunch of younger viewers and readers, people our age, they grew up with Teen Titans. So it's tough to say, man. It's a tough one. That's how important he's been for comic books and for this medium. And these characters are going to continue on well past you and I or George are around. I think that they're that colorful and that deep of stories that you can explore still. And that's just the contribution that George has had. And not a lot of creators can say they've done that. And George absolutely has.
Agreed.
I know Bobby's favorite is Nightwing, so I got to say that for sure. If I'm wrong, correct me, Bobby, but I would have to guess it's Nightwing, and that's another big creation right there. Although his wasn't the standard black and blue that we know today, or black and red, depending on which version you kind of read. His was that disco outfit that he appeared where he came down. He's like, I'm Nightwing now.
Outfit, yeah.
that was
an interesting.
It was of its time, but you know what? If I were a Nightwing fan, I'd be like, Yeah, and that one too. Fuck it. I like them all. So thank you, George, so much, and we hope to see you at your final signing. Here's the anime news that Scott has been following, probably more closely than I have. I just started reading about this yesterday, and I watched the video, and I think we can get some pretty good discussion out of it. YouTuber Totally Not Mark. He's known for his manga and anime videos. He does a lot of dissection of stories and characters. He has been hit with 150 copyright claims from Toei Animation. So, for context, Totally Not Mark explained that this is over 3 years of work that's now taken down that will take over 30 years to contest, thanks to YouTube's over 30-day process. So, from what I understood, you have 30 days to submit your first claim, another 30 days to submit another one, and then if that one is ignored, then YouTube might reinstate your video. But you could only do that one video at a time. He can't do all 150 at the same time. So, that's why he's saying it's going to take literally over 30 years if he were to decide to do that, and it's not something he wants to do. He wants to instead, one, his career would be, irrelevant at that point, but two, he wants the system to change. And there's some arguments on both sides here. Mark claims that his channel adheres to policy and fair use for the US and other countries, although attorney Keiji Sugiyama explained that Japanese copyright law does not have a general fair use provision like the United States. According to Kotaku, the rights of the copyright holder are so strong in Japan that it often hinders the re-release of old games. And I was reading that it's fully in Toei and Japan's rights to say, we don't want these videos on there. So he's called on fans of Dragon Ball and of all of Toei's productions, one, to stand in solidarity and not support the upcoming Dragon Ball Super movie. But I've been seeing Toei's Twitter and all of the different responses, and a lot of it is fans upset that Toei did take down these videos. And again, I think there's some arguments on both sides, but I do want to see and hear where you stand on this one, Scott.
So I very much stand with Mark on this one because, number one, I believe I believe that what should happen with fair use is that it should happen with the country of him making it, not necessarily based on the other law, like Japanese law when it's in America and stuff like that you're taking the videos down. Number two is YouTube's policy is crap.
Yeah, it is.
Because, again, like he explains, and for the listeners, that when you fight against that strike, that takedown, instead of YouTube investigating it, they send it back to, in this case, Toei, to say, is this a valid claim?
Mm-hmm.
And then Toei says, yes, that's a valid. And it's like, well, of course the person that's taking your video down is going to say that it's a valid claim. So then you have to appeal again. And then they say, yes, that's a valid claim again. And then on the third time, you say, okay, well, I'm taking you to court. And then that's when normally they won't continue the process, and then your video gets reinstated. And that's a very long process. And it's a very broken process because, again, the person that's taking your videos down is deciding the validity of your claim. That's not good in general. That's not how any legal process should be done. Where, oh yeah, if I punch you in the face and you're going, well, he punched me in the face, and they ask me, did you? And I go, no. Then that's it. Okay, well, yeah, he didn't punch you in the face. It's like, but I have evidence. Well, he says he didn't, so that's all we need. It's just a broken system, and the fact that you can only do one video at a time is a very tedious and horrible system. Instead of saying, okay, well, all of these videos flagged by this person, I'm going to do at one time. Because if you went to court, you're not going to go to court 150 times for these videos.
I don't know why it's one video at a time. That's the one part. And here's where I kind of stand on this one is YouTube is broken in all kinds of ways. And this is one obvious way for sure. For example, I think every YouTuber that's put out any kind of content out there consistently has at one point ran into YouTube's algorithms or bots, whatever it is that they use, third-party companies that go out there and flag these things for companies like Toei. And for example, when Millennial Mike and I were doing our Dune review discussion, I had the trailer playing on a loop in the background, no sound, and it was just the image. And while we talked about it, just so there was something in there, and YouTube took it down. I don't know if it was from Warner Brothers, but I think it was just an automatic takedown from their bots saying that it was spam because it was a looping video. And I contested it and said, well, no, it's under fair use based on this, and I've seen other YouTubers do it, so here you go. And they said, no, it's still taken down. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I think there's a huge change that should happen at YouTube as far as these. And if it doesn't happen, I think another competitor at some point will come up, and YouTube will then either have to buy them up, or that'll be the next big video host. And I think a lot of YouTubers are kind of tired of this process and the way that they choose which videos get taken down or not. That all aside, Toei has the rights to say, we still want your videos to be taken down. We don't want them up. However, it's kind of like how when you get a tattoo of, I got Batman, the animated series, tattooed on my arm. And from what I understand, Warner Brothers or Discovery next year could very much find me and sue me for having their characters on my arm, and also sue the artist for drawing those characters on my arm. The reason companies don't do it, though, is it's kind of shitty. It's not nice.
Ruins public face. And
It
that's
does.
kind of what Toei's doing with this.
That's the biggest issue. Yeah. So at some point, there's got to be like someone's got to make the call of, look, is this really that big a deal? Are we really going to suffer this blowback from fans? Will this blow over or not? We don't know. So that's kind of the decision they need to make for themselves. Even though they're fully in the right to do this based on Japan law, it's kind of like come on, you're not you're not Nintendo. Nintendo doesn't give a shit. They will go after you.
The hypocrisy of it too is they've asked him to promote their videos before and to be sponsored with him and stuff like that. Like whenever something like the Dragon Ball Z movie is coming out, they ask him to promote Dragon Ball Z stuff and to help promote the new movie. And then they do this to him.
Yeah, and when he's like, you can't have it both ways. I'm like, you can, but they're assholes for it. Like they can do that, but
like,
they're
he
being
can also
dicks.
just go, okay, no, like I'm gonna actually encourage people to not and use my fan base to hurt your video, your movie release, instead of helping it like I could have. And he's a decently popular YouTuber. He's got almost 1 million subs on YouTube. And not only him, but even some of the more popular, especially Dragon Ball Z ones like Team 4-Star, are fully in his corner and also tweeting out about that. And a lot of other, even voice actors and things like that, are very much in his corner on this one if you are on Twitter. It's a very interesting thing of Toei's burning a lot of bridges because they've been doing this crap for a while and people are just getting kind of tired of it. And he was kind of the catalyst.
Did Team 4-Star's videos ever get taken down? Are those still up?
They had a lot that have been taken down over the years.
And they haven't been able to recover them, I'm guessing?
Some they have, that's part of what caused them to eventually just stop, was because they got tired of all the claims and having to fight them, and it was just easier to say screw it.
Yeah, I was always curious because to me, Totally Not Mark's videos are, and I'm a subscriber, they're less a copyright issue to me than something like Team 4-Star. And I don't think either one should get taken down. At least I wouldn't make that call if I were Toei. But it's like, he's talking about the work and he's dissecting it and he's discussing it and it's educational as well. And I feel like that does fall under fair use.
Well, yeah, because he's very much talking about like when he does a blind review of a manga series like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball. Well, he didn't do Dragon Ball blind, but he did dissect Dragon Ball. Like he's going into it and telling you kind of like why something works, why he liked this, what's this about, and like diving into these characters and how they're written, how the paneling is, things of that nature. It's very much it's way more than just, oh, here's the plot points. And it can get people into a lot of these series I'm sure that it's gotten people into One Piece or Dragon Ball or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hunter x Hunter, Berserk. I can't believe that no one, like, they watched his One Piece videos, the 500,000 people, and not one of them went out and bought One Piece volumes because of it.
I used to see it at the comic shop where people would come in and they'd watch these YouTubers that do, I think it's called Comics Explained or something like that. It's a big channel and they will go through an entire comic panel by panel and tell you the whole story and talk about it a little bit. And people would come in and say, "Hey, I saw this on Comic Explained on YouTube. Do you have the book?" So it does drive some customers to your thing. It does keep your characters alive. It keeps the conversation going. So I think it's a good thing for it's the same argument as you get with gaming companies where some of them don't like it when you stream their games, and it's promoting the fucking thing for you. It's promoting your product.
Well, and that's, like, I understand with certain games where they will, like, with, for example, Persona 5. Persona 5, when it first launched, had a provision of you can stream it all the way up until this point where the major plot twists happen and stuff like that. And then that had a 6-month, you cannot stream past this point for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of give people a chance to buy and play the game and experience it for themselves. And that was fair because, okay, it's for a certain amount of time and you can play most of the game on stream. And then after that point, you can then play the rest of it on stream. They wouldn't care. Or certain visual novels where, okay, you can't stream the ending yet because we want people to experience the ending. Okay. But at the same time, those companies are working at least with these streamers and Let's Players and saying, hey, we're going to put some ground rules in place, but we also understand, what you're doing is beneficial to us. And then you also have the game companies that, no, I don't want anything to do with it. And it's weird to me because I've bought personally so many games because I've watched a Let's Play or a stream of it. And I'm like, wow, that looks really fun and enjoyable. I mean, that's how I got God of War 2018, why I gave it a chance, was I watched an entire Let's Play of the game and then went out and was like, yeah, I'm going to go buy this game right now. Went out and bought a copy, came back, beat the whole thing, platinum trophied it, and now I'm still watching another Let's Play of it. But it's all because of things like Let's Play streams, and in Anime's case, because of things like what Totally Not Mark does.
So you know Toei better than I do. Where do you think they're going to go as far as this? Will they give him back his videos or will they stand their ground?
I don't know. They're a pretty shit company to begin with.
That's the answer right there.
I mean, yeah, they've had issues with their own animators and stuff like that. So I can imagine that it's probably not going to, they'll probably stand their ground. It'll probably depend a lot on what happens with the new Dragon Ball Z movie or Dragon Ball Super movie. If it doesn't make as projected, then they'll probably start looking at things again and going, hey, maybe there is a reason it didn't make what it was projected to make. But then again, companies can also be crap and just go, well, that means that the Americans just don't want it.
They don't like Dragon Ball Super. Stop making Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, stop putting it out into the West.
That would be pretty funny, though.
I mean, I wouldn't be that butthurt about it, but
I don't think this is going to change YouTube, though, as far as their policies, unfortunately. I think that's
listen to anyone.
They're beyond change. Yeah. Some of the biggest YouTubers have gone after and called for massive revisions, and it still hasn't done what it needs to, unfortunately. So I think we'll discuss this more if Toei ends up making a decision of any sorts. I do feel for Totally Not Mark and people like Team 4-Star, but hopefully they get to move on to a different type of video or are able to somehow recoup their career. But it's a tough one to be in for sure. And I totally see, again, I see both sides, but you got to kind of make a call as Toei, and hopefully they have a representative, someone in the US that can kind of put things in perspective a little bit for them. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But if it does, we will discuss it right here on the show. This one was all over our Twitter, and I saw it on Discord as well. Game Awards' very own Jeff Keighley tweeted a tease that the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie will be a part of a cinematic universe. So people speculate that Sega and Paramount will plan spin-offs based on the sequel's success. We had seen discussions already discussed over the Super Mario movie that's releasing and how they're going to already do, I think they said a Donkey Kong movie is what they've been talking about. And even months ago, it's rumored that I guess they opened Sonic 2 or Sonic 1, one of the films with Sega's world. So you see like the Virtual Fighter world and you see Shenmue, and it's kind of like hinting that Sonic is just one part of this Sega universe. Do you think that we should see the expansion of more than just Sonic the Hedgehog based on Sonic 1's success?
I think it'd be interesting. Like I wouldn't mind seeing something more from that, like seeing different properties, like a Super Monkey Ball animated movie would be kind of cool. I don't know if I want all of them to be live action though. You know, like I still don't care that much for the live action Sonic characters, like the way Sonic and stuff look. I think Tails looks a lot better than Sonic.
Are there any Sega properties? You said Super Monkey Ball. Do you think anything else would fit pretty well in crossover between the Sonic characters and more?
I mean, as a crossover, a Super Monkey Ball would definitely work for that. I think that would be kind of a fun one. I would love if they could get like a really good writer to do it and make it really dark. I would love to see Yakuza, but like actual Yakuza movie, because I think it could work perfectly. But you'd have to get a really good, like dark and serious director to do it, but that also kind of has some comedy aspects, because that's pretty much what Yakuza is. It's a dark, gritty crime drama, but it also has some random out of the box moments that kind of levity certain situations and just add to hilarity.
I think with the fact that Jeff has already tweeted part of the Sonic the Hedgehog cinematic universe, I think Sega's already made that decision. Now, they don't have to move forward with sequels if this one flops, but I think in Sonic 2, they will make it clear that Sonic is part of a bigger Sega world, and that will keep their doors open for not just a Sonic 3 and 4 and just keeping it at Sonic, but if they want to bring in other characters or then say, hey, remember this guy showed up in Sonic? Well, now here's his own movie right over here. So not Nights in the Dream, because that one's not popular enough. But
they could also do, what was it, Echo the Dolphin?
Yeah, they could do that. Crazy Taxi might be kind of fun.
Oh my god, Crazy Taxi would be a great movie if they did that.
With the excitement behind Sonic the Hedgehog 2, do you think that the stigma has gone away a little bit, at least in consumers' mind, of immediately dismissing a video game movie? Do you think people are a little bit more willing to give things a shot when they're announced?
I don't know as for the general public still, because a lot of the people I'm seeing excited were the same people I saw excited for the first one, which were a lot of the Sonic fans. A lot of Sonic fans just really were excited for the movie. Even our own resident Sonic fan, Justin, was super excited for the first movie, even with the original design. He was still super excited for that movie. So I see a lot of the same, where it's like, yeah, these people are going to watch this movie and they're going to love it just as much. As far as the general public's concerned, I don't know. Like, I haven't really seen much from, like, on my Twitter from anyone but Sonic fans.
I think I'm speaking more as far as, like, we know we've gotten good Tomb Raider movies. We've gotten some decent Resident Evils. The Phoenix Wright movie was excellent. So it kind of seems like there's already been several movies that have been adapted from video games, some live action, actually a lot of them live action, that are pretty decent. I think that, at least from what I've seen as far as like this live action, this announced movie, I think there's less of that, like, oh no, it's going to be awful, because we've gotten some decent stuff, and it's different than anime right now. I think anime live action still has to put out some decent projects before people can kind of have some trust in that. But I think video games have made their mark as far as video game movies. They've definitely done well box office wise. We've seen stuff like Resident Evil do over 7 movies and do really well. And then Tomb Raider was, I believe it was critically acclaimed on top of that, which who cares what critics say, but people were more or less saying that it was actually a decent movie. I saw the first one and I really enjoyed it. And I'm talking about the recent ones, not the ones in the 90s, although the Laura Croft ones, I'd have to go back and rewatch them. Who knows how
I
those
don't know.
are?
I mind like the Angelina Jolie ones. Like they weren't great, but they weren't. Oh my gosh, this is a horrible, horrible movie.
Yeah, I think we've kind of hopefully hit, and now with the Nintendo Super Mario movie that we're getting, like that one's getting some pretty positive buzz from fans and people. I think we've kind of hit that mark of like, all right, I think we're okay as far as like if they want to adapt video game movies, then go for it. And by its own right, I still haven't seen Sonic 1. From the description alone, I should have been like really like fuck this. Like Sonic's lost in the live action world. Whoa, it's the Smurfs again. It's fucking, that fucking trope.
Yeah,
But as you said, people liked it. Sonic fans liked it. Kids loved it. I was gonna go see it as a Sonic fan, but then they changed the design to the new one, so I refused. But this sequel I will see since the artists are no longer involved. I will check out Sonic 2, and I think Knuckles is gonna be in it, so that's gonna work out for me. Absolutely. We will discuss Sonic 2 when that releases. I'll try to have Justin on and see if he wants to discuss and review it. I know he'll love it. Like you said, Sonic fans are going to love it, but I still think it'll be fun to discuss on here. HBO Max has released the latest trailer to The Matrix Resurrections along with an IMAX poster.
I still know Kung Fu.
It will be released in theaters and on HBO Max for 31 days on December 22nd. Tickets are on sale now. This is the trailer right before all the TV spots. This is pretty much all we're getting since we're a couple weeks away from the movie releasing. I don't know if you got the same impression from it, but it feels like this is more Trinity's movie than Neo's.
I did actually get that. Like I was sitting there watching the newest trailer, and I'm like, I guess this is going to focus a lot more on Trinity than actually Neo, which makes sense. I mean, Neo had an entire trilogy where he reached pretty much an end.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering how they're going to even bring him back for this movie as far as in the lore. But so it's nice that we're going to get more focus on Trinity, who got a bit of character development and kind of story in the trilogy, but not nearly as much since she wasn't the main character.
Some people are speculating that they're going to, because the Matrix movie exists in the universe of this movie, like he's walking by a big screen and they're showing the movie on there. So based on some of the dialogue on there of like the Matrix showed you what you wanted to see, that kind of thing, they're speculating that they're going to retroactively make Trinity the one of this universe or this new world that they were making, this new Matrix, and that's how that they're all going to fit in that way. And I don't know if they're planning on doing a set of sequels after this, if this is going to be a new set of trilogies. But from this trailer, after this one came out, I was like, yeah, it does kind of seem that way. She looks like she's getting some of the same powers or similar ones that Neo has.
Yeah, it very much looks like, to your point, she's almost kind of the one from the way they are framing it, or that together they are the one. Like, as far as, because like there's certain scenes where, when they're together, a power activates or something like that when they're both working together. So I'm almost wondering if that's the whole thing. Like the power was incomplete as one, just Neo or just Trinity. It's only when they team up that they're truly the, big powerful thing.
I am planning on seeing this on the big screen when it releases in a couple of weeks. And otherwise, if you want to rewatch it again or see it for the first time, it will be on HBO Max. I believe it is the final film as part of the 2021 same day release that HBO Max is doing with theaters. Next year, they're going to go back to, I believe it was a 45-day window before it hits streaming services. They didn't say HBO Max, they said streaming services. So it won't be an exclusive HBO Max thing like they did this past year. Some analytics somewhere told them, and I'm sure theaters weren't happy, but something told them that this wasn't a very profitable idea as far as number of subscribers. So that's kind of what they're moving, but Matrix Resurrections will be that final one. Another big trailer that released this week is Sony Pictures Animation's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Is Spider-Man grounded?
I mean, I
Writer Chris Miller shared that the crew are working on both parts simultaneously, so there may not be a big break between parts 1, 2, and maybe a 3. It is coming exclusively to movie theaters on October 7th, 2022. We had talked before you recorded that this is one, you didn't see the first one. First one won, I believe, an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. After I saw it, it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, and it's just done extremely well. What'd you think of the trailer as someone who's not a fan of the animation?
I think the visuals still look really, really cool. For the listeners, I don't care for the type of animation they use where they try to kind of make it more comic booky by skipping frames, essentially removing them. And it gives it that choppy feel to me. And it just bugs the crap out of me personally. But the imagery, the colors, the actual art style of the movie, I find gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. So even then, seeing some of the visuals and stuff are just amazing, and I love the character designs. The new Spider-Man 2099 character design I thought looked really cool, even if he is like freaking giant.
Is there a certain Spider person that you want to see from one of the different multiverses?
So I would love to see the Japanese Spider-Man with the giant neck.
That'd be a
Like,
good one, yeah.
that one's always been one of the most entertaining just because he has a giant mech. Like, I just find that hilarious. He also has a katana.
Right, of course.
Unrealistically, I would love to see the T-Rex Spider-Man.
Gotcha.
One that I also find realistic that I would love to see is the universe where Ben Parker is Spider-Man. Like, I would think that would be a really cool one for them to bring in.
Doesn't Peter also get the powers or something, or is it just his sidekick?
I think they both did. It's been a while since I read that one. But I think they both had it and teamed up together. But
yeah, it was basically like Batman and Robin, kind of.
Yeah, just with Ben Parker and Peter Parker. So
Yeah.
I would see that, and I would love to see some of the interactions that they could do with that aspect, since, this Peter Parker did have a Ben Parker. He's not, Iron Man Jr.
Right. Ben who? Someone did a meme of a Green Goblin from the first film, and he's like, I've been like a father to you. And then it cuts to Tom Holland Spider-Man, and he's like, I had a father. His name was Tony Stark. And it cuts back to Green Goblin, and he's like, you're not Peter. I don't think we're going to see, I know some people have said, like, let's put in Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield. I don't think we're going to get any of the live action ones show up here, just because they're doing their own thing with the movie that's coming out later this month. And I think they're doing great, as they did with the first film. I'm really excited to see the second one. I'm going to take Leo to it. He really likes the first one as well. After he saw it, he was, pretending, sticking to walls and whatnot. So he likes Spider-Man on the Marvel side. He likes Batman on the DC side. So I've got to take him to anytime they release movies for either characters. He's got to go to them now. I like that they are doing 2 and 3 back to back, because it has been a while since the first one came out, even though they're calling this part 1. So that gets me really excited, because I don't have to wait as long this time for, oh man, 2 was really good. Now how long is 3 going to take? And I don't think even they knew that 1 was going to be that big a hit. So that's why they weren't already working on a sequel. But this time, 2 and 3, give them to us, separate them by a year or whatever your plan is, and then release them as a dual pack. You can do so many things marketing wise. You can do a release in theaters, limited engagement, see parts 1 and 2, and then get the Blu-ray separately and then release the combo pack. So there's so much money to be made here. And I think this one is going to be a hit in spite of how long it's been since the last one. I think this one is going to be in good hands and another solid hit for Sony.
Yeah, I agree. Considering even though it's been a while since the last one, like, it never really left the public eye. Like, you would still see fan art occasionally. You would still see scenes from the movie. Like, it was still popular enough that it's like, it's still around. So, and now it's going to drive people to go rewatch the movie if they haven't seen it in a while, or maybe some people haven't seen it yet at all. And are like, oh, well, this whole new trilogy is coming out for it. Like, let me go check out the first one.
And I know it even trended when it hit Netflix. It's like people were watching it again or discovering it for the first time. And that was just, I think, a year ago. So it's really had, like you said, it's had its moment still to shine, even years after it released. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see it next year. We're a little under a year away, October 7th, 2022 again. But I'm counting down the days. There's a lot to look forward to next year. And that's good because 2021, 2020, actually 2019, 2018, 2017 was really like when it really, every year it got worse and worse from that year. So let's see what 2022 brings. But that does wrap it up for the chunk of news for this week. Now we head into the Broket block, which is what Scott and I have been doing, playing, reading, and watching this week. So Scott, let's start off with you. What have you been up to since the last time you were on?
I've been playing currently my game of the year pick, which is Lost Judgment from RGG Studios. Great game. Sequel to Judgment. Also fantastic game.
What system is that on?
It is on every major system, PS4, 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X.
Okay.
And then also PC. So it's also on Steam. Good game. Highly recommend it if you haven't played it. I also recommend checking out the original Judgment, since this is a sequel to it. But it is kind of a standalone sequel. You'll just miss certain callbacks to characters or things of that nature. But they also do a good job of trying to reintroduce you into those characters for people that it's been a while since the first game, and then also people that are coming into this one. What else have I been doing? I've also been watching some anime for my work for Ronin Council.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were Ronin Council being Millennial Mike's. If you hear the podcast, you know Millennial Mike, and he's got his own podcast out there, and you were part of that revival, the first episode in a while, the Ronin Council.
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot more seasonal anime because of that. You can check out Watch Seasonal Anime on the Ronin Council. But yeah, so I've been watching a lot more anime than I have in quite a while because of that podcast, which is kind of nice. It gave me kind of that kick in the butt to watch a lot more anime. And beyond that, I finally caught up in the Robin comic.
Oh, nice. So you saw when Ra's al Ghul pops up.
Yeah, I haven't read issue 8 or the annual yet because I just picked those up last week or on Sunday. So I haven't had a chance to read those yet. But yes, I'm caught up to issue 7, which it was interesting seeing Ra's because I haven't read the Batman comics in a while. So I'm like, the hell is he's like, oh yeah, no, I've kind of retired from that life. Okay, then. Like, became like a guru hippie. All right, cool. I'm for it.
Watching over his grandson.
Yeah. Along with like the giant dog beast thing.
Oh, that's right. Forgot his name. Goliath, I think?
Yes, Goliath. But yeah, I like some of the characters they've introduced in that. Like the chick that rips out people's hearts. She just KOs people.
That's right. Flatline, I think, is her name.
Yeah, I think so. And she's basically Damien's love interest at this point.
For sure. I think that's where they're going with it.
Yeah, it seems very heavy that they're going for that. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, she seems like a decent character. She's fun. You know, she taunts Robin and pokes fun at him.
Yeah, and that's the direction it's going. I know all the Superboy Damien fans were upset when they aged him up, Superboy, because now, you know, he's an adult and Damien's a kid, and now they can't ship them together. And I'm like, I never got that vibe from them, though. They were always best friends from all the comics I saw from Super Sons. I never got that ship vibe from them.
There's a lot of fans that just think that because two characters, no matter what two characters, are really good friends, that's what happens.
Right.
And it's like, whether it's a male and female, two females, like, no matter what it is, if they're really good friends to the community, the fan community, it's like, nope, they're together.
They're fucking.
The Robin comic is at least really good. I was kind of worried since I had read issue 1 and not read any other issues. And I was up to 7 that I've been purchasing. And I'm like, well, I should probably read this and see if it's any good.
Right.
And I'm very happy that, yeah, okay, I'll continue my sub and picked up volumes 8 and the annual.
Yeah, I like that you brought up, we brought up Ra's al Ghul. I just got done reading the Gotham City Villains one-shot. And I ended up getting the variant that has Ra's al Ghul and Talia on the cover. Great cover. And I'm like, well, I'm going to read it as well. And there is a Ra's al Ghul story inside. and it's basically Batman and Ra's playing chess, and Ra's is trying to convince Batman that they're on the same side of the board. He's like, look, we're both fighting for the same thing. You just don't see it. And Batman tells him, we're not the same. We're not on the same side. It cuts to a few years later, and the League of Assassins, they're holding hostages, and they're trying to do good. You know, Ra's is going after major conglomerates, people that are harming the Earth. And Ra's tells him, we need to take care of this Earth. You need to stop opposing me. You need to join me. And Batman says, at the cost of innocent lives, you're holding hostages. And Ra's says, you don't concern yourself with grubs when you're trying to tend the garden. You just tend the garden. And that's where Batman and Ra's disagree, you know, because Batman does tend for everything. He tries to save whoever he can. And that's where, like, me as a Ra's Batman fan, and Ra's tells him, I just want you to join me and lead my League of Assassins. And it cuts to like a vision that Ra's has that Batman also sees, because there's like some drug that he gets him with, like a smoke bomb drug. And Batman sees himself next to Talia, and he's leading an army of League of Assassins. He's got this cool kind of Arab-like bat suit, which is very kind of similar to Damian's in that Batman 666 future. And he's also got Nightwing in the background with him, his whole Bat family. And I'm just like, I want that future. Well, like, come on, Batman, just give it a shot. What can hurt?
Go ahead and try it out. You can reform it from the inside. Don't worry.
That's right. Yeah, like if Ra's passes, like then what's the matter? Like, you know, he'll probably die happy knowing that you lead the assassins, and you'll lead them well. You'll tell him no killing or whatever you want to tell him, and that's that. So that one's something I read, and then there was also I read that Danny DeVito story that was in there.
Yeah.
And it is his Penguin, but it's not the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, and I don't know if it's because of copyrights or whatever using her likeness, but they have a Catwoman and then his version of Penguin, and they are together, they're in love, they're banging, and they end up, it's a really bizarre story. There's an evil corporation that takes all the vaccines from the world, and so Catwoman and Penguin steal them back, and then they essentially blackmail the world into taking the vaccines, and that eradicates a virus, which we know what he's talking about. And from there, Catwoman and Penguin go off into a jungle where they adopt big cats, and that's the whole story. And I'm like, this was not as good as I thought it would be.
That's a weird, wild ride.
Yeah, I'm like, this is very California. You know what I mean? Like someone definitely from Hollywood wrote this.
It just doesn't sound like there's a way to be subtle, and that ain't it.
No. I was hoping for a Batman Returns story, and that's not what I got. So
it's what it starts out kind of as, in a way, and it's just like, nope.
I thought it was going to be a fantasy story of Penguin, you know, where he wanted, because he was in love with the Selena Catwoman, or at least he was infatuated with her in that movie. And I thought that's what this was going to be. Like, this is what our future could have been. And then it would have cut to Batman Returns. I don't know. But clearly that's not where this story went. You covered some gaming, anime, anything else outside of that's been going on in your week?
No, other than that, it's been a pretty quiet week, thankfully.
That's not a bad thing at all. The only other thing I've got on my side is I watched Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and it's been years since I'd seen 1 and 2, but I'd never seen 3, which I don't know if you know the history of it, but what Carpenter wanted to do, he had Halloween 1, it was a massive hit, and he wanted the Halloween series to be their own films as far as like stories. He didn't want Michael Myers to be the bad guy in every single one of them. He's like, okay, that was the Michael Myers story. For 2, I want to do something else, but they're all called Halloween. And the producers, the studio told him, no, we need to have Michael Myers in the sequel. And they kept coming at him. And he's like, fine, we'll put Michael Myers in 2, but then after that, that's it. And what he did in 2 is he made sure to kill off Michael Myers and the doctor. His name is Lupus, Dr. Lupus. That was like his way of like, the 2 main characters of Halloween basically are dead, and they blow up in this house, and you see Michael Myers burn. And then they're like, fine, make 3. And so he made 3, and it's its own story. And I watched it, and it has to do with an evil Irish company that's trying to bring back the pagan rituals that Irish used to do. And this includes, in this movie, child sacrifice to appease their gods. And so they do it in the way of Halloween masks. They implant a chip in Halloween masks that, when activated by a certain commercial, it kills kids, and it actually makes bugs and poisonous animals grow out of their skin, which then attacks anyone in the room. And that's the fucking plot. Nothing to do with Michael Myers. In fact, in the movie, they have a commercial playing of like the Halloween film. So in that universe, Halloween is just the movie. And that was like his way of saying, like, this has nothing to do with fucking Michael Myers. I watched it. It was actually kind of decent. Like, I'm like, this was not bad. Like, it was fun. It was different. But I can see why people who were expecting to see Halloween 3 proper were like, where the fuck was Michael Myers? What the hell is this? To the point where they told him, okay, for Halloween 4, you have to bring Michael Myers back because the audiences are fucking pissed. And that's when he was like, fuck it, I'm just selling the rights and you guys do whatever the fuck you want to do. He was that frustrated because he wanted to keep doing movies like Halloween 3. And for 4, they just brought back Dr. Lupus and Michael Myers with no explanation, really. Like, they're like, oh, they're back. Like,
Yeah.
the doctor has like a little bit of burns on his skin, but nothing like at all.
That's poor writing.
It's like I forgot which Simpsons clip it was where they're like, I thought you were dead. Nope. Like, that's all that's all they needed. So I've been watching those, and that's what, funny enough, 3 got me fascinated enough to go back and watch the other Halloween film. So I went back and I saw 1, and that was good. You know, it's a landmark film as far as slasher films. It did a lot for the genre. I'm going to check out 2 sometime this week. I got to get a hold of it. I think my brother has a lot of them. He had just seen the latest one that came out in theaters, which I think Carpenter is back on. So he kind of undid a lot of what they did with Halloween 2 and 3, 4, 5, and all of those. So I want to eventually jump to the newer films and kind of see where he would have continued or what he wants to continue with. Because there's one more that they're going to release before they finish this trilogy of films until they do a reboot or whatever the hell they end up doing. But that's kind of what I've been doing this week. It's not the season at all for it. I know we're in fucking Christmas time, but I don't know why. I just got the Halloween itch.
I mean, you don't really need a reason to watch a bunch of good horror movies.
No, I guess not. I've been doing it, and I've been having fun with it. But I'm glad I had some time to do that and watch some films. I haven't been getting as many hours this week, so it gave me some extra time to spend with Leo and watch a couple movies, rewatch the Last Dance Chicago Bulls documentary on Netflix, and been kind of enjoying that. The last couple of episodes, I've been playing around with a new bit of software as far as editing, so I'm still kind of figuring things out. I've noticed a couple of hiccups as I've been listening to the last couple of weeks worth of podcasts, and some of you may not notice it, but some of you will. And for me, as a podcaster and someone who listens to a lot of podcasts, I notice all that shit. So today's I'm going to make some changes to today's episode, and hopefully you won't hear too many of those errors as far as my editing on that as I kind of figure out this software. Scott, I want to thank you for joining me, especially for that Toei animation bit. I'm glad I was able to get that, and that worked out for this week, that it landed on your episode, and we got some good discussion out of that. But let the Brokehead Corps know where they can find you and what Lazy Gaming Guys and Ronin Console is all about.
Yeah, so you can find me every Wednesday on Lazy Gaming Guys at about 10:30 Eastern Time. We stream different games on YouTube, which you can find that on Lazy Gaming or YouTube/Lazy Gaming Guys. Then you can also find us on Twitter at Lazy Gaming Guys, and also on Twitter you can find our a tweet for a link to the YouTube and our Discord. Then you can and the podcast for the Lazy Gaming Guys. Can't forget about that. Then there's also the Ronin Council. You can find that on SoundCloud. And of course, the Ronin Council Patreon. If you are a sub to Patreon, you can get content on there as well. Ronin Council, we discuss different animes. We talk about our seasonal animes that we're watching. We talk about some other do some other little random reviews of different animes that have come out that we decided to binge watch and things of that nature. So if you like anime, manga, stuff like that, go ahead and check out the Ronin Council Reincarnated or Season 2 on SoundCloud.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As always, there will be links to everywhere you can find Scott as well as Lazy Gaming Guys on the description of today's episode. And now with Ronin Console returning, I will have a link on there too. If you want to help us out, if you want to help out the reasons I'm broke, whatever podcast app you use, if it has reviews on there or a star system, this week, if you can take a couple of minutes and leave us a review or a star, it doesn't help as far as subscription numbers or rankings or analytics. But if that other person, if someone's out there that goes by reviews, lives and dies by them, and they read your review and then helps us out, then great. Word of mouth is always the best, but if not, maybe reading your review or seeing your rating will get another broquette to join the core. Thank you once again for joining us this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Scott, and Brokehead Core. All will be well. So I've got to ask Scott, I asked it on Discord, and I didn't really get an answer. But on Ronin Console, when are the hentai specials coming?
I would love to do one, but I don't think Mike is up for one. Like, I would think it would be a fun little thing, maybe around like an April Fool's Day or something like that, to do one. I don't think Mike really would enjoy, like, the way it seems, he wouldn't enjoy talking about hentai. Well, I did just buy my entire history of hentai.
Oh, that's right. How's that? Did you go through it yet?
I haven't gone through it yet. Like, I glanced through it, and it's way more detailed than I actually thought.
In what way?
Well, so it talks about like the different censorship policies when they popped up. It talks about the evolution of like how boobs were drawn in hentai, the evolution of different techniques and stuff like that for sound effects and
Holy shit.
things of that nature, and how they affected actual manga, like non-hen manga, and how a lot of hentai manga stuff shaped regular mangas and anime. So I'm like, wow, I mean, they literally dive deep into this.
That's kind of
So
amazing.
it's, like, really actually an interesting read for people.
Hentai Scholar made this book.
Yes, apparently, like someone very knowledgeable that went through a lot of hentai.
Yeah, I thought
of
you
course
were
there's-
the and
Yeah.
goes to show you there's always someone bigger and stronger than all of us.
Every time. And it also does have examples, so of course it is for adults. Like, I mean, there is actual example pictures of hentai to illustrate what they mean by like the evolution of a certain drawing style or something like that.
I love it. I love that this is a hentai textbook. Like, it's legitimately educational. Like, and here's how it affected non-hentai things, and here's the impact of hentai.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's, if you were taking a course in school, this would be a textbook.
Forward
Like,
by Scott.
research material. Like, there you go.
If they ever do that, I want you to write the forward to that book, like the second edition or whatever.
Like, message them like, hey, can I write the forward to this book?
We're gonna start classes around your book.
I can teach you like whole courses. This is a 6-month course.